Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. International Court of Justice warns Venezuela to refrain from taking any action to change current Essequibo region situation. Government could be taken to court over planned boundary changes in Portmore. And later in sports, Cavalier FC lose first leg final of CONCACAF Caribbean Cup. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. We begin with news from the region. The International Court of Justice (ICJ) says the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela shall refrain from taking any action which would modify the situation that currently prevails in the Essequibo region. This as the Venezuelan government signaled its intention to annex the region, which currently belongs to Guyana. Over the past few months, there have been increased dispute over the territory, which lies on the country's shared border. The ICJ order was delivered on Friday, pending a final decision. President of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, says it's a decision which is welcomed.
The order states, and I quote, "Pending a final decision in the case, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela shall refrain from taking any action which would modify the situation that currently prevails in the territory in dispute, whereby the Cooperative Republic of Guyana administers and exercises control over the area," end of quote. We welcome this unanimous ruling by the ICJ. As the court has made clear, Venezuela is prohibited from annexing or trespassing upon Guyanese territory or taking any other actions regardless of the outcome of its referendum on December 3rd that would alter the status quo in which Guyana administers and controls the Essequibo region as an integral part of its sovereign territory under the arbitral award of the 3rd of October 1899.
Now, the ruling is legally binding on Venezuela. Both the UN Charter and the Statute of the Court, to which Venezuela is a party, requires its strict compliance. The government could be heading to court over its decision to make changes to the boundaries in Portmore, St. Catherine. The opposition MP for St. Catherine Southern is leading the charge as he says the move is totally political and will disenfranchise entire communities. The People's National Party says it's prepared to take legal action over the proposed boundary changes in Portmore if the government does not engage in further consultation. Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Southern, Fitz Jackson, has asserted that some communities in his constituency and East Central St. Catherine will be disenfranchised by the boundary shift as they will no longer have political representatives. He says the PNP will not sit idle and allow the government to abuse its power.
If they proceed that way and disenfranchise the people in those areas, part of it that would have been represented by me, but no longer by the law that they would have brought into force. I am going to court about it. It's abuse of authority by the government.
The argument was renewed after St. Catherine Southwestern MP Everald Warmington stated that the impending boundary shift will create a stronghold in the St. Catherine East Central constituency for the Jamaica Labour Party. Mr. Jackson has said this planned action of the Andrew Holness-led administration is a clear indication of the government's plan to divide the political boundaries in St. Catherine to gain a political advantage. He wants clarity from the government on the matter. In the meantime, at the latest sitting of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of Parliament, looking at Portmore as the 15th parish, Mr. Jackson pressed the authorities from the Ministry of Local Government for answers about the document sent to the Portmore Municipal Corporation about the changes.
In making that submission for the proposed boundaries, are you mindful that it has consequential impact on existing constituency boundaries in about 3 constituencies? Which is the remit of another act. So your submission, which I have had sight of, refers to the Parish and Counties Act. The one that you sent to the municipality, which was the basis of the community discussion in Portmore.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government, Marsha Henry Martin, says she wasn't prepared to go in detail about the changes, but spoke of the origin.
The proposed boundaries in that correspondence would have emanated not from my office, but from the EOJ, and to which I am also commenting to say that would have had various responses and proposals as to what that boundary would look like.
2 men are dead after both their motorcycles collided along the Ballards Valley Main Road in St. Elizabeth this morning. They have been identified as 45-year-old O'Dane Swaby of Ridge District in St. Elizabeth and Kimani Hibbert of Plowden in Manchester. TVJ News understands at about 6 o'clock, both men were driving in opposite directions when they collided. They were rushed to hospital where they were pronounced dead. The crash was reported to the Junction Police by a coaster bus driver who passed the scene. The bus operator also informed the police that Mr. Swaby, a few minutes before the fatal crash, had crashed into the side of his vehicle. Former director of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, Dr. Carissa Etienne, has died. The Dominican-born died after she collapsed at her home in Maryland Friday morning. She was 71 years old. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton expressed sadness at Dr. Etienne's passing. He says they had been in dialogue recently.
During this period, I worked very closely with Dr. Etienne, having served in various capacities within that organization and as Minister of Health and Wellness here in Jamaica. Of significance was her contribution initially to my own orientation when I first became Minister of Health, where I went to PAHO in Washington and spent some time understanding health policy and some of the critical issues that were important to my providing leadership at this level.
Now, Dr. Etienne was very supportive and gave good advice for the Jamaican people during the COVID-19 pandemic.
In the immediate aftermath of her demitting office from PAHO, she had a few issues which she was dealing with, and my conversations with her suggested that she was coping and working to overcome. It was a terrible shock to learn that she passed early this morning, and we all mourn in regret.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us, more stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. The public is being urged to be alert as the festive season approaches. With the Yuletide season usually seeing an increase in robberies, Station Commander for the Highgate Police in St. Mary, Sergeant Christopher Ward, said a number of incidents have already been reported. He's appealing to Jamaicans to exercise vigilance.
Exercise safety, be careful how you walk around with your monies, how we conduct business, and I'm moving around meeting the business people where I even did some of that today, giving safety tips.
He said the police will be making themselves more accessible during this time.
We'll be having public community outcries with systems, and we're putting in so many things in place. So feel free to call on us, and we'll try our best to see how we can serve you as the festive season gets closer and closer.
Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, is stressing the need for Jamaica's youth to be taught proper beliefs, values and attitudes to steer them away from a life of crime. Citing a recent high-profile murder case in which one of the convicts sought forgiveness for his role in the incident, Mrs. Llewellyn says while he has shown remorse, it has come too late. It's why she has issued this charge to the Political Directorate.
You should all, whether you're orange or green, have the belief to embrace the positive values and attitudes so that you can engage give value to your constituents, and inspire your people.
Ms. Llewellyn was speaking at the recent national launch of the BVA initiative in Mandeville, Manchester. The initiative is a brainchild of customers of Mandeville Garfield Green and was first launched 2 years ago at the parish level. According to Mr. Green, the initiative was born out of the need to instill proper values and attitudes among Jamaica's youth and to help curb the behavioral and attitudinal issues being played out in schools and the society at large. And it's now time for the Business Minute. The Bank of Jamaica says it is progressing well with plans to make it easier for bank customers to transfer their accounts from one institution to another. BOJ Governor Richard Ball says the new system will possibly include an electronic Know Your Customer KYC database.
If every customer's KYC information is stored in one place digitally, and a customer wants to move from Bank A to Bank B, by simply indicating that to the repository that they want to move, their data immediately goes to the other institution and the bank account can be opened within minutes. It's that kind of ease and convenience that consumers want.
Mr. Bowles also says digital-first banking could improve sector efficiency. In international business, economic data released by the U.S. Commerce Department suggests that while inflation is easing, consumers are still holding back on spending. The Core Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, which is the Federal Reserve's main inflation gauge, rose 0.2% last month, not including gas and food prices, ending up 3.5% for the year. That's in line with what economists were expecting. It's also the lowest annual rate since April 2021. And that's it for the Business Minute. Time now for the top regional and international